For the better part of the last decade, Schwarbombs have been some of baseball's most breathtaking sights.
Schwarber continues to have an unbelievable season.
Home run, Kyle Schwarber.
Is that what they call a Schwarbomb?
That's it. And another rocket from Schwarber.
Chance of MVP in the background as he took that swing.
Kyle Schwarber has long been one of the more respected sluggers in the sport, but never has he had a season quite like the one he's having in 2025 at the age of 32. For the first time in his career, Schwarber is hitting the home stretch looking like a possible MVP finalist. All the more after he wowed us with just the 21st four-homer game in MLB history on August 28th. After becoming Kyle Forber with that Tater Quartet and 9 RBI performance against the Braves, Schwarber is on the doorstep of the first 50-homer season of his career, having already driven in 119 runs for the highest RBI total of his career, and with a .370 on-base percentage that is one of the best of his career. He's having an enormous, no, Schwarmish year.
He's one of those players, when he gets hot, it literally seems like every swing that he takes is a homer.
So as Schwarber nears free agency, let's take a look at the man behind the muscle, the interesting trajectory that led him to Philly, and where all those Schwarbombs might take him from here. Schwarber hails from Middletown, Ohio, a one-time steel hub situated almost equidistant between Cincinnati and Dayton. If I say Middletown, Ohio, what do you think it looks like? Yep, looks exactly like that. Humble and relatively unadorned, much like Schwarber himself. Schwarber grew up rooted in the community spirit and enthusiasm known to Middletown residents as Midi Pride, and he played for a youth baseball club by the same name. Schwarber was primarily a catcher, and his Reds-rooting grandmother told him he could be the next Johnny Bench. Sure enough, when the Midi Pride's 12 and under team played at Cooperstown Dreams Park in 2005, Schwarber got to meet Bench himself. But when the Pride defeated the Rochester, New York Diamond Dogs for a weekly championship game, Schwarber wasn't behind the dish, but actually on the mound as the winning pitcher. Schwarber went on to be an all-state selection in football and baseball and was a 4-time team MVP as the catcher at Middletown High School, while even performing in show choir. Let's see those jazz hands, Schwarbs. He applied the lessons of using his lower half as a middle linebacker and the tough guy mindset it took to make a tackle into the demanding physical duties at catcher. But when Schwarber finished up his high school career, no big league teams came calling. Instead, Schwarber went on to Indiana University, where he continued to squat behind the plate and continued to rake. He competed for the United States Collegiate National Team in the summer of 2013, then at the conclusion of his junior year was a finalist for, yep, the Johnny Bench Award. You just know his grandma was so proud. By that point, Schwarber was definitely on the radar of MLB clubs. And sure enough, the Cubs took him with the 4th overall pick in 2014. From the beginning of his pro career, there was doubt about Schwarber's long-term viability as a catcher, but not much question about his bat, which between the power and advanced approach was considered big league ready virtually from the moment he arrived. He tore it up with a .344 average and 1.061 OPS across 3 single-A levels in the summer after he signed. Then, in 2015, he so dominated the pitching in AA and AAA that the Cubs briefly called him up in June, just 1 year after the draft, to fill a catching need. Schwarber tripled for his first hit, just as he had done at the top 2 minor league levels. And though that initial trial was brief, it resulted in Schwarber going 8 for 22 in 6 games. Undeterred by his return to AAA, Schwarber showed up at that summer's Futures game in Cincinnati, less than 40 miles from his hometown, and put on yet another display. In front of a crowd that included more than 100 friends and family members, Schwarber threw out Ketel Marte on a stolen base attempt mere moments into the game, then connected on a 2-run triple in the 3rd to help the U.S. team to a 10-1 victory. For his efforts, he was named the Futures Game MVP.
It's a great award, and all these guys are special talents, and couldn't play with a bunch of better guys out here, and we had a solid victory.
A star was born. Schwarber returned to the majors in short order, and in having him shift to left field, the Cubs found a way to give his booming bat a regular spot in their lineup. In 69 games at the highest level in that 2015 season, Schwarber had an .842 OPS with 16 homers and 6 doubles. Then, to further prove what a quick study he was, he hit .333 with 5 Schwarbombs total across 9 postseason games as the Cubbies reached the NLCS. That run set a record for the most homers in a single postseason by a player aged 22 or younger. and one of Schwarber's blasts in the NLDS clincher against the Cardinals landed on top of the new Wrigley Field scoreboard in right, where it was eventually encased for posterity. But that was nothing. There is perhaps no better way to forever etch your name into sports fans' hearts than to heroically come back from an ugly injury and propel your team to a title. And that's exactly what Schwarber did in 2016. Just 2 games into that season, Schwarber collided in the outfield with teammate Dexter Fowler, tearing his ACL and LCL in his left knee. It was a devastating injury for Schwarber and the Cubs, who had no reason to expect they'd get him back that year. In fact, as the Cubs sought a lockdown reliever at the trade deadline, there was much speculation that Schwarber might be dangled as trade bait. Instead, the Cubs kept their injured young star, used prospect Gleyber Torres to land Aroldis Chapman, and went on the run of a lifetime. When they reached the World Series against Cleveland, they had a chance to end a 108-year championship drought, and incredibly, they got Schwarber back. While the Cubs were playing their NLCS clincher in Game 6 against the Dodgers, Schwarber was suited up for the Mesa Solar Sox in the Arizona Fall League. He came out of that assignment healthy enough to serve as a DH in the Cleveland games in the Fall Classic, and he made his mark right away, launching a double off the right field wall in the 4th inning of Game 1 and becoming the first position player in history to get his first hit of the season during the World Series. With a ridiculous lack of rust, Schwarber went on to record 7 hits, 3 walks, 2 RBIs, and even stole a base in the Cubs' 7-game triumph.
You know, that's where it all started, right there in Middletown, and you know, playing baseball with my group of friends back at home, and we're all still best friends now. It's great. My family's here. I love them to death. They taught me all. You know, I can't thank them enough.
After the heights of that storybook fascinating fall, the rest of Schwarber's time with the Cubs was marked by inconsistency. From 2017 through 2019, he averaged more than 30 homers at the plate, but none of those years were truly transcendent, and his struggles in left field became a liability for the Northsiders in that time before the universal DH arrived. After Schwarber hit lightly in the COVID-shortened 2020 season, the Cubs made the surprising decision to non-tender him, exposing him to free agency earlier than expected. It was an odd and untimely ending for a guy who had so quickly established himself as a local legend, but for Schwarber, it all turned out for the best. In 2021, Schwarber latched on with the Nationals and enjoyed a resurgence at the dish, belting 25 Schwarbombs in 72 games and establishing himself as a sought-after mid-season trade candidate. The Red Sox landed him at the deadline, and Schwarber, no stranger to the October limelight, wound up boosting Boston on its way to the ALCS. Good timing, too, because when Schwarber reached free agency for the 2nd time that winter, a new collective bargaining agreement permanently brought the universal DH to MLB and expanded the pool of teams interested in landing him long-term. It was the Phillies who ponied up a 4-year, $79 million deal. And what a happy marriage that's become. In Schwarber's first season in the city of brotherly love, fans fell in love with him as he cranked out an NL best 46 homers, including one in his very first at-bat as a Philly.
And a high fly ball to right field. Piscotty's going back, and it is gone! What a way to start for Kyle Schwarber, a leadoff home run!
Schwarber became an unorthodox leadoff hitter for the Phillies, but an undeniable engine in their success that season. In the NLCS against the Padres, he had another one of those seminal Schwarbombs, a 488-foot blast at Petco Park that was the furthest ever registered by StatCast in that building. Though the Phillies ultimately fell to the Astros in their first World Series appearance since 2009, it was not for lack of effort from Schwarber, who had a .937 OPS and 6 dingers across 4 postseason rounds. The years since have been marked by important milestones on Schwarber's baseball journey. He hit his 200th career home run early in 2023, the 2nd straight season in which Schwarber reached the 40-homer tally. That fall, he cranked out his 19th career postseason homer, breaking Reggie Jackson's record for a left-handed hitter. Though he did eventually become a full-time DH, Schwarber got down-ballot MVP votes in each of the first 3 seasons of his Philly contract. But 2025 has been something else. Earlier in the year, Schwarber reached number 300 in his career in fitting fashion, smashing a 466-foot blast off the facade of Coors Field's upper deck.
Deep right field. It's number 300 off the facing of the upper deck. What a shot by Kyle Schwarber. And you figured a milestone home run for Kyle Schwarber would come with some length to it.
That was one of 10 Schwarbombs in the month of May and 30 in the first half. Unsurprisingly, he was named an All-Star for the third time in his career. But what was surprising was what happened at the All-Star game itself. For the first time since 2018, the Midsummer Classic was tied after 9 innings. But this was the first such game since the 2021 CBA that stipulated a new solution for extra innings in the All-Star game, a home run derby-style swing-off. The American League and National League skippers each selected 3 sluggers to get 3 swings apiece, with the game to be won by whichever club produced the most home runs in aggregate. In the first round, the A's' Brent Rooker went deep twice, and the Marlins' Kyle Stowers connected on 1 long ball. In the second round, the Mariners' Randy Arozarena hit 1 out to give the AL a 3-1 edge. But then up stepped Schwarber.
Look out, Chop House!
With both his NL teammates and AL opponents looking on in awe, Schwarbs was the sultan of the swing-off. And after the Rays' Jonathan Aranda came up empty in his round, it was over. The NL had prevailed, and Schwarber was named the All-Star MVP.
Yeah, it was awesome. The guys were really into it, and they were yelling, screaming, cheering me on every swing. And then when that last one goes over, they were all pumped. It was a lot of fun.
With the All-Star MVP in hand, what are the chances Schwarber could be the NL MVP too? Well, as you know, some guy named Shohei Ohtani, who returned to pitching this year, makes that pretty difficult. But even though he has been limited almost entirely to DH duties, Schwarber entered the week ranked in the top 10 in the National League in Fangraph's wins above replacement tally, to go with OPS and weighted runs created plus marks that ranked second only to Ohtani's. With Schwarber pacing the NL in home runs, leading the majors in RBI, and posting a .370 on-base percentage that nears the career-best .374 mark he had in 2021 with the Nats and Red Sox, this has been a career year, and one that could see Schwarber finish in the top 3 of the MVP. With or without that accolade, Schwarber has inspired conversation in the industry that even as he enters his mid-30s and provides no defensive value, he could command a contract that exceeds the total value he received from the Phillies 4 years ago. The Phillies would love to bring Schwarbs back, and having started and begun to raise his family in Philly, Schwarber has said he'd love to come back. But there will be other teams clamoring for his big bat, perhaps even the Reds, just a short drive from Middletown. Wherever he winds up, Schwarber has already developed a reputation in the game as a terrific teammate, a clubhouse leader, an October hero, a champion, a swing-off stud, and steady supplier of those Schwarbombs, which made their way from Middletown to the majors and have been entertaining us ever since.